After nearly 60 years of relations between the United States and Uganda, many people watching from the outside say that they've grown cold. This is because public outbursts by the Ugandan President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni to the United States government and sanctions from the United States government to Ugandan military and judicial officers have complicated what is a broad partnership that spills over into health, education and military spending. This week on The Spot, we speak exclusively to Natalie E Brown, the ambassador of the United States to Uganda. We ask her about the sanctions regime, we ask her about democracy in Uganda, and we ask her about the COVID-19 response of the Ugandan government. This week on The Spot, Natalie E Brown, the United States ambassador to Uganda. Your Excellency, thank you so much for accepting to interview today. I want to ask you first, how would you describe the relationship between the US and Uganda currently?
Well, thank you so much for coming. It's a pleasure to have you here. And I want to say, next year Uganda will celebrate its 60th anniversary of independence, and we will celebrate 60 years of US-Ugandan relations. So throughout that history, we've had a strong partnership in the areas of health, education, supporting women's rights and children, and certainly Uganda and the United States have partnered together on a number of security issues to promote stability and peace in the region. So there are numerous areas of partnership, and like any relationship, sometimes you have some highs and you have some lows. I think the important thing is maintaining the channels of communication, dialogue, to talk through certainly areas where we are in agreement and to look at the areas where there may be some differences of opinion and figure out how to move forward. Certainly, when it comes to, democracy and human rights, that is an area, it's the foundation of US foreign policy. We believe strongly that citizens should play a role in their governments, that they should have a say in the direction of the country. Most recently, during the conduct of the election, we saw some behavior that was concerning to the United States. These are areas that are going to continue to be an important part of our relationship and our dialogue, and hopefully we can move forward in the same direction on those issues.
What are the kind of relationships and conversations you've had, since you say they're open-end conversations? What kind of conversations have you had with the Ugandan state about their behavior during the elections?
Well, on that issue, I'll certainly say, it was very distressing to the United States and many other countries, and certainly to many Ugandans as well, to see what we consider to be excessive use by the security forces. Several people lost their lives. I understand that there have been investigations into what happened in late November. We certainly look forward to seeing the report of that. I think it's important for the Ugandan government, certainly for the Ugandan people, most importantly for the families who lost loved ones. But that transparency and accountability is also important, for the U.S. relations with Uganda, because we believe that government should be transparent and that they're accountable to the people they serve.
The Ugandan opposition has said that the Ugandan security forces that assaulted them during those elections were security forces trained under the security relationship that Uganda and the U.S. enjoys. Have you looked or tried to review some of the training policies? Have you discussed this in your partnership with the Ugandan security agencies particularly?
As I said, we have a strong relationship when it comes to regional security, and currently our engagement, the U.S. engagement with the Ugandan security forces is primarily related to AMISOM and trying to bring peace and stability to Somalia. So our relationship with UPDF, it is really, most of the training takes place in Somalia, and it's in order for the Ugandan forces, and Uganda is the largest troop contributing country to the mission in Somalia, to AMISOM. It's for them to be well prepared to undertake the missions that they've been assigned to. And security, our engagement in a lot of sectors, These are things that we look at, we review, we assess on a regular basis.
Do you boil with anger when the president, at a swearing-in address, lashes out at the United States, very specifically, saying that they had a role in trying to destabilize Uganda? Do you boil with anger? Do you consider it misinformation? Or?
The United States, as I said, 60 years of partnership with the Ugandan people, our interest in our investments in health, in education, in agriculture, in business. The goal is to help Uganda develop where every man, every woman, every child can thrive and pursue their hopes and the lifestyle that would be most fulfilling to them. I've had the fortune to meet with His Excellency the President many times. I must say we enjoy an open and frank exchange, and we share a lot of opinions. But the goal of the United States investment in Uganda is to help Uganda and Ugandan people to develop and be a productive society where people are healthy, well educated, and can pursue their interests.
Over the last few years, we've seen a shift in your foreign policy to apply sanctions to pressure the Ugandan government to behave democratically. Do you believe that you've achieved some success?
Sanctions are just one of many foreign policy tools that the United States has available, and they're something, it's not just about Uganda. We have used sanctions in other countries. Most recently in March, Secretary Blinken announced sanctions against ISIS DRC because of the terror threat to the border area and to the people there. And the goal of those sanction regimes is to limit their access to resources and finance to support their terror activities. So there's a range of sanctions that exist in the United States. We examine the situation closely and apply them when we think it's appropriate, and it might help to change the course of the behavior of individuals.
The ones you've used in Uganda, however, have been very punitive. For example, the sanctions against Kale Kayihura, who was a high-ranking security official. He was out of office at the time that the sanctions came. Would you say that they achieved the due regard? But also the Ugandan government has described that as affecting the sovereignty of the Ugandan state. Do you agree with them?
As I mentioned, sanctions are a foreign policy tool that are available to the United States. And when someone has undermined democracy, when they have violated the rights of individuals, I think this can be a very effective tool.
Let's talk about the COVID-19 response. As a partner of the Ugandan state, are you happy with the level of response that the Ugandan government is giving to COVID-19?
The pandemic and COVID-19, it is upended the world that we all know. It's very serious. And since the beginning of the outbreak, the United States has worked hand in hand with the Ugandan government, particularly the Ministry of Health, but other entities, civil society, other international partners to support Uganda's effort to detect, to prevent the spread of this horrible disease, and certainly to treat people who've been afflicted by it. To that end, the United States has invested over $111 million, that's 400 billion shillings, in providing oxygen and upgrading facilities, providing public health fellows. I'm thinking updating Nambuli Stadium so that it could serve as a facility for people for treatment. Working with the Emergency Operations Center, supporting testing, and most recently, most significantly, the donation of vaccines to help treat this. Just on Monday, we had 1,674,270, I believe is the correct number.
About 1.6 million.
Vaccines arrive, and that supplements a donation of over 600,000 that arrived earlier in September. So all of these things are done to support the response of the government in responding to this pandemic and getting it under control. President Biden has said many times, Secretary of State Blinken has indicated, we are all affected by this. None of us is safe until all of us are safe. we encourage the government to continue to make vaccines available to its citizens, to advise citizens on the measures that's going to help keep them safe, and the United States will continue to work alongside Ugandans in doing this.
And yet many African leaders, not just Yoweri Museveni, but African leaders have said the vaccine inequality in the world is affecting Africa's response to COVID-19. Uganda itself needs to vaccinate about 20 million people to get to a level of parity, and we don't have the vaccines. Is this something that the United States is concerned about? Your voice is not as strong enough in the room. That's what some partners of African states are saying.
Well, I'd say, President Biden made a commitment of providing more than 500 million vaccines to countries that need them. And the vaccines that arrived on September 20th, that is a bilateral donation that came from U.S. stocks. So we are very committed to supporting Uganda and other nations that need these vaccines. I will say it can be a complex effort. For some of the vaccines, certain cold storage and other measures are required to safeguard them in order to get them, especially in the transport and getting them to the people that need them, and that can be a challenge. The United States was right there. We helped in getting freezers here so that Uganda has the capacity to store these vaccines until they can be used. And in addressing the United Nations General Assembly yesterday, President Biden reasserted the U.S. commitment to working bilaterally with other partners, with the World Health Organization, through COVAX, with everyone to get vaccines to people so that we can move beyond where we are in this pandemic right now.
On the spot, Natalie E Brown, the United States ambassador to Uganda. Away from the vaccines, the other thing that the pandemic has upended is economies in African countries. The economic response to COVID-19, is this something that you're concerned about when you are looking at the Ugandan economy and the way that it's responding to the pandemic?
Yeah, again, the situation that you describe in Uganda, unfortunately, is not unique to Uganda. Every country has been affected in so many ways by the pandemic. Businesses here in Uganda have been closed during the lockdown. In the United States, we've actually seen businesses, completely shut. President Biden has announced the Build Back Better initiative, and part of that includes, certainly economic support, and helping economies, I'd say maybe rebound from the effects of the pandemic.
The U.S. has been instrumental in that economic response, in the sense that you sit on many multilateral agencies that have been lending to Uganda. But are you concerned about the misuse of funds of COVID-19 in Uganda for the COVID-19 response?
Well, you mentioned misuse of funds. Let's just talk about kind of corruption in general, in the broader sense. The Biden-Harris administration has highlighted, corruption as a major concern. It's something that, again, President Biden mentioned in his remarks at the General Assembly yesterday, the impacts of corruption on countries, on individuals, on all of us. And even here in Uganda, President Museveni has spoken many times about corruption. I think, transparency, accountability, they are essential. This is an area of concern to the United States. I know some of our international partners are also concerned about this. This is an area that we will be working on in the future to help efforts to promote more transparent, more accountable societies, and to make sure that funds, whether it's for COVID relief or any other types of assistance, that they reach the individuals who need them the most.
But what are you going to do about the funds that have failed to reach the areas where they need to reach? And I'm talking about the fact that we've had an audit report, part of which was partnered with the United States government, which says, look here, money was misspent in the last COVID-19 response. What are you going to do about that specific form of corruption?
I say, well, again, transparency and accountability are critical areas of interest for the United States when it comes to U.S. assistance, whether it is funds or in-kind assistance. We have rigorous screening measures for how we provide assistance to implementing partners or others, and also very stringent reporting requirements where we go back and assess. So the calls here in Uganda for transparency and accountability, we support those, and we believe that government should be accountable to its people, and we look forward to a full accounting of how the funds were spent, and if there was any misuse, we hope that there is that there's full accountability for that.
Ambassador, let's talk about just global politics a little bit. Are you concerned that the Ugandan government is signing or increasing partnership with people like China, people like Russia? Does that concern you?
Countries have relations with a number of countries in the world. We have seen, certainly through the pandemic, that no country, no individual can exist in isolation, that everything is interconnected. But I think, in countries, when they think about the relationships and the partnerships, I think, you have to pay close attention to the cost of some of those things. Again, going back to COVID and the support that the United States has provided, certainly the donations, there are no strings attached to that. These were, I think the president said something to the General Assembly yesterday, like about a dose of hope or of sunshine or something like that. And getting these things, we provided those because we think it's important. It will help the Ugandan people. It will help the region by our supplies. So, and when U.S. businesses are looking to invest in countries, whether it's Uganda or someone else, they look for transparency, they look for accountability. They want to grow their businesses and make a difference, but many U.S. companies also want to invest back. So I think it's really important that governments, that individuals, that business people, that they look closely at some of the cost of some of these relationships, and to make sure that they're benefiting from it in a positive way.
But your partnership with Uganda is multilateral. It goes towards institutions, the building of democracy, the building of institutions. The partnership that Uganda has with institutions like China and Russia is a business partnership. It doesn't cater towards building institutions. Some would say that the institutions you're building are profiting. China and Russia in Uganda, does this worry you?
I would say that the United States, as I said, is investing in the Ugandan people. And it is an investment. Whatever assistance we provide, we're not, building a factory or something. And not that because that's not important, but because we think really for things to be sustainable, to have an impact, it's investing in the Ugandan people and giving them, making sure that they have the skills and the tools and the know-how to develop society and to develop the institutions that they desire. So we think that really is the best use of our resources, and to develop those relationships. And as an example, let me give you, one of my first trips outside of Kampala was to Mbarara. And there is a company called Intuha. It's a ride-sharing platform, and during the lockdown, people weren't going anywhere. And the owner had an idea about how to transform that platform to benefit his community, and he came to us, and he was able to use that ride-sharing platform so that farmers could call a boda boda or a taxi to get their goods to market. So the boda boda drivers and the taxi drivers were making money. The farmers' goods weren't rotting. People had food in the market to buy. And I think I really like that story because it's not something that was imposed by the United States. Someone had an idea, and we were able to provide some support and assistance and just watch it grow. And in the sense, our investment in this, it's just continued to grow with more and more people signing on to this platform and using it to support their community. And I think that's such an excellent example of the type of assistance that the United States provides, that we want to be responsive, that we want to make a difference, and we certainly want to support the entrepreneurship in the creativity of the Ugandan people. And I think that's one of the strengths, one of the benefits of working not just with the U.S. mission, with the U.S. Embassy here, but with the United States and with the American people and the value that we bring and offer.
Ambassador, after a year of being in office, in the ambassadorial office, what do you have your sights on for increasing the partnership between the U.S. and Uganda? What areas do you see for cooperation?
You know, it's an excellent question, and I think the opportunities are endless. So I'm just under 1 year here in Uganda, and one of the things that I have prioritized, you know, within the parameters of the COVID SOPs, was really trying to meet with some of our implementing partners, meeting with some of the Ugandans who are benefiting from our relationships, seeing some of the country and seeing how the U.S. investment is being used and whether or not it's making a difference. And I've been impressed with what I've seen. I've just gave you the example from Ntuha. I think it's just outside of Jinja. There's an American woman who works with Ugandan women, and they make jewelry that is sold in the United States, and they teach the women financial literacy. And I've met with some of the women. I went to their homes and saw how they were saving money, building homes, putting their kids in school. So I see all of that, and I would just like to expand this thing. So, you know, going forward, certainly looking at, you know, agriculture. I've been fortunate during my time here to see some U.S. companies succeed. We'd love to have more U.S. companies come and create and increase the partnerships with Ugandan businesses. In May, I went to the launch of Roxio, $15 million investment for cloud storage. You know, we're working in the oil sector as well, so I think there are opportunities there for more U.S. companies. But again, that goes back to the issue you raised of kind of transparency and accountability. I think American companies want to make sure, you know, that there are clear processes, that if there's a dispute, that there's judicial independence so that they can operate, you know, effectively. Certainly, you know, historically, health is where we do a lot of work. I've met with young people who are living with HIV and AIDS and doing great things. Would love to be able to support them more and to support their development and full integration into society. And, you know, education is key as well. So I think the opportunities are endless. And we're at the point where we're kind of looking ahead and thinking about where are some of these areas, where can we really make a difference going forward. But of course, this comes back to COVID and the pandemic. We need to make sure that the people who are eligible, that they're able to get the shot, because, you know, until people have some greater protection against this virus, it's going to be difficult to continue any of these activities or to expand on them.
Ambassador, the democracies succeed with participation of the civil society. The Ugandan state in the last 3 months has shut down over 54 different civil societies, most of them engaged in civic education and politics. Have you addressed these concerns with the Ugandan government?
So yes, the role of civil society is essential, not just in Uganda, I think, in any country. They are there, they provide some of the services that government is not able to provide. They're in closer contact with communities, with the beneficiaries, and can sometimes be a little bit more agile and a little bit more responsive to them. The announcement of the restrictions or against the 54 NGOs, it's something that we've watched with concern and very closely because of the importance of civil society, and certainly, you know, troubling to see that some of Uganda's, you know, oldest, most respected, most effective civil society organizations were included in this list. According to the media reports today, that there are some discussions ongoing between these organizations and the NGO Bureau, and we certainly hope that it's resolved quickly so these organizations can get back to their important work.
What happens if it is not resolved? Because this is an ongoing, since the elections it's been ongoing, but you've had chances to meet the president during this period of time. Have you impressed upon him the fact that you could try sanctions perhaps?
You know, again, want to emphasize the importance of civil society organizations. We work with them very closely. They are key to implementing many of our activities. The role of the civil society is something that I've spoken about many times publicly, as well as with the president and with other government officials about the important role they have, the contributions that they make, and of course having an environment in which they can function and serve. So I don't want to presume the outcome of any conversation, but I will say that it is an ongoing topic of discussion in all of my engagements.
Ambassador, my final question is, for the time that you've been in Uganda, how would you describe it as a country?
So, think about that. So I think countries they're the people. And for me, when I was given the opportunity to come here as the U.S. ambassador representing the United people, the American people, and certainly the president, I was excited because in previous assignments, I've met many Ugandans. I've had the opportunity to work alongside with them. And in fact, I have a couple of friends here that I met, 20 years ago in other countries, and they were, excellent representatives of the country and Ugandan people, and it made me really excited to want to come here. And then being here, having the opportunity to get out to meet people, it's just only validated those experiences that I've previously had. I think, already my most memorable experiences here are when I've really had the opportunity to sit and think, to sit and chat and spend some time with Ugandan people. I think of a lovely woman named Mary, whom I met in Jinja, who works with us on water and sanitation projects, and she invited me into her home. And we didn't have a common language, and others helped, but we connected, and that was very special. And I really appreciate those, and those are the types of memories that stay with you long after you complete your assignments. And I am so appreciative of the warm welcome that I've received to the Ugandan people, and I look forward to traveling in the country and meeting more people.
All right. Thank you so much for speaking to us.
Thank you.